What is up guys, Alex from Lakey Wargames here, and in today's video we're going to talk about why you might want to play Nighthaunt within 3rd edition. Alrighty guys, so let's get into it. Today's video we're going to be splitting into 2 parts. First thing is we're going to go through my top 5 points of why you would probably want to get into Nighthaunt. If you're on the fence for this army, maybe you're thinking, you know, do I want to get into Nighthaunt, or maybe you collected a small army somewhere doing like an escalation league, or you got some in a starter box or one of the magazines and you're thinking, I might want to turn this into a fully fledged force, like you know, why would I want to play Nighthaunt? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down 5 top reasons for me why you'd want to play Nighthaunt, and then we're going to go through, I've got a few reasons of why you might not want to play Nighthaunt, because the reasons that we've got are good, and then there's some that are kind of like, if you're looking for certain specific things that Nighthaunt don't offer, it might be a reason not to be for you. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through the reasons why you want to play Nighthaunt, and then we've got a few reasons why it might not be for you, and we're going to talk about the good and the bad. Alright, and before we jump straight in, I just want to thank everybody. All the photos that will be used throughout this, photo credits are displayed on screen alongside the photos. Big thank you to everybody who contributed photos. These are all Facebook Nighthaunt Facebook page community photos. People submitted them themselves, and there's some fantastic work, and I'm ever so grateful. I put a post up. There's a video back on my channel, which is the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Nighthaunt Needs You. I'm going to link it in the description below if you want to go back and watch it. It will tell you about how you can submit photos if you want to have your Nighthaunt displayed in any of the videos forthcoming. But I just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who took part and is letting me use their photos and display them on screen throughout this video. So big thank you to you guys. So, reason number 1 is Nighthaunt has an absolutely fantastic model range and lore to go with them to boot. If you take a quick gander on the Games Workshop website, just go on the Nighthaunt section, just have a flick through. All of the models, bar probably the Hex Wraiths, which are a little bit dated fantasy models. I think they're not really a fan favourite, but even then they don't really look out of place. They haven't kind of got that free-flowing element that, you know, a lot of the modern units have. But on whole, Nighthaunt as a range, because it was one of the new ones for Age of Sigmar, you know, they really got it right in my opinion. Like, all the stuff that came out new that wasn't existing, brought over from fantasy, that was new, absolutely fantastic. From like the hero models, like the Lord Executioner that came in the Soul Wars box with his like noose. You got the Black Coach, which is an absolutely fantastic centerpiece. Like, rules aside, Nighthaunt does have one of the most beautiful ranges, and the lore to go with them. You know, the fact that you've got your Dread Scythe Harridans that were like healers and nurses, and then, you know, in their afterlife, Nagash has now twisted them into these sort of murderous machines, so they do the complete opposite of their goals they wanted to achieve in life, and that's how they're imprisoned in. Like, just fantastic. It looks great, it reads great. It's one of those things, like, if you find 2+ Tough, Doug from 2+ Tough on YouTube, just type that in, 2+ Tough. He does fantastic lore videos. Just give the Nighthaunt stuff a listen, and you know, if this is something that you were generally interested in, if depth factions are your thing, spooky ghosts and murderers and criminals are your kind of thing, you know, you want to turn that into an army, these guys will not let you down. So the second point that I've got down for why you might want to play Nighthaunt in 3rd edition is more of an in-game one, this one, and that's that they've got a really open style of play. There's a lot of movement tricks, there's a lot of speed to this army. They have a lot of retreat and charge. It's basically all over the army, so you can take your big blocks of ghosts, you can throw them down someone's throat, kill a bunch of their guys, cause lots of problems, then you can literally just fly straight over their units and then just charge into something else. Like, you're just causing chaos all over the place. You've got some great movement tricks in this this book. So like I said, you've got the retreat and charge. You've got a thing called Vanishing Phantoms, which means you can basically deploy your army. You can remove up to 3 of your units and then redeploy them somewhere else after they've finished. So, you know, you can almost do like a refused flank. You can deploy all your guys on the left, you could pick some of them up, put them down on the right, or you could bait someone out. You know, you've put that 1 or 2 big deadly units down on one flank, and then you shift them to another before the game even starts. And it's just almost never ending in this book. You've also got Alrich the Drowner, who's a character in here who can literally just pick up teleport himself and units like anywhere across the table, as long as you're within 9 inches away from an enemy. So there's lots and lots of tricks to this army. So if that's your kind of game, you know, the whole bait and move, almost like setting up a trap, luring your opponent in and then springing all your tricks, this army would be great for you. Number 3 is that this army is very forgiving, very survivable. It's not always the case. If the enemy has a lot of mortal wounds, it can be quite tricky, but there are ways to make this army very survivable, unless you're at the very, very top end competitive tables, and that is because everything in this is ethereal. I mean, you ghosts, so you just ignore rend. Rend is something that lowers your armor save within the game, and Nighthaunt, just ignore it. They can't gain any buffs to it at all, but 9 times out of 10, just ignoring the negative part on its own is more than enough. You also get an army-wide ward save for also being a ghost, and this can be boosted through your allegiance abilities. So you've got ghosts that can basically like ignore the rend from weapons, and then you also get like an extra save on top of it, which can be boosted. There's characters in this book that reduce the enemy's damage statistics. So on the whole, Nighthaunt, very, very tough. It takes a lot of dice to be able to chew through a Nighthaunt. Not your average troops can do it. Your enemy's really going to have to bring their elite toys and tricks to be able to bring your ghosts down. Number 4 on this list is that basically Nighthaunt just has the best infantry in the game. For all the reasons I've just stated, you've got all the movement tricks, retreat and charge, being able to ignore all the rend. They've got a lot of damage. Takes heroes to buff Nighthaunt up, but once you get the right spell, you know, the right ability on top of a unit, and then you can basically put them where you need them, nothing can slow them down. You just have the best infantry in the game. They've all got a base move of 8. They all fly, they can all retreat and charge, they're all ethereal. It's just overall a very infantry based army. So if you really like having lots of boots on the ground and doing your work through that way, then Nighthaunt's really going to be for you, because that's what the central focus is around. There's a thing called Wave of Terror, which basically makes your guys better as they're charging in and fighting on the turn that they charge in. So you get a lot of boots on the ground, flying around, causing lots of chaos, charging in, doing all their good stuff. This definitely is the army for you, because that's exactly what Nighthaunt excel at. And the last and 5th point that I've got for the reasons to play Nighthaunt in 3rd edition is they are very cheap and easy to access around on the second-hand market. The Nighthaunt were in quite a few of the starter boxes last edition, and they're quite a brand new range. Had the Mortal Realms magazine out, so there was lots of cheap Nighthaunt, people just like bulk buying the magazines. They're still floating around. It's Hatchet Paperworks, I think, that were released the Mortal Realms magazine. They're still available now, some of them, if you go on their website. You used to be able to pick up like 10 chain rasps for $1.99, so a lot of that still floats around on eBay. People manage to pick up a lot of Nighthaunt cheap. You know, a lot of people change armies a lot of the time, so you can go on places like eBay or onto Facebook selling groups. You can find big bulks of Nighthaunt that a lot of the time haven't even been touched for very cheap. And it's one of those armies where you can't really go wrong. Like, everything can always be used in a varied lots of lists, so if you buy certain units in certain armies, specifically they can only be used in a certain way, but Nighthaunt is very open. A lot of your characters will interact with a lot of your units, so basically anything that you buy, if you think it looks cool, you can buy it. 99% of the time you're still going to be able to use it in an effective way on the table. So you can just have more fun with it. You don't have to worry too much about, you know, what you're buying into. You can always just buy all the cool stuff and then worry about the rules later on down the road. So that's my top 5 reasons why I think you'd be able to get into Nighthaunt for 3rd edition. Now let's take a few reasons why Nighthaunt might not be for you, just in case. Alrighty, so some reasons why Nighthaunt might not be for you. This is kind of like a counter to the top 5 reasons I just said. If you like the sound of those things, I just want to go through these things because these will shoehorn you into the direction with Nighthaunt. So if these are things that you aren't looking for, then it will just make the army not for you. So it's best to know these things before you buy into them, just in case you decide for those reasons. So number 1, why Nighthaunt might not be for you is they do force you on a competitive edge. You don't have to. Obviously when you play on the tabletop you can play any way you like. But on a competitive element, if you're trying to win games, Nighthaunt does force you to play aggressive. As I mentioned earlier, that wave of terror, Nighthaunt excel on having lots of infantry all around the table, and they all have to be sort of using their momentum, using that retreat and charge that we spoke about earlier, and making sure they're causing havoc in as much places and sort of ganging up on units as possible. It's basically Nighthaunt get better the turn that they're charging in and trying to murder people. So it does force you to play aggressive. It does mean that you have to sort of think that one step ahead, and you do have to be on the front foot because you want to be charging in and gaining these benefits. I'm going to be doing tactics series later on down the road, so we'll go in depth on all that kind of thing if you want to know more. But Nighthaunt definitely excels in you being on the front foot and not sort of castling up and protecting yourself and waiting for the enemy to come to you, sort of thing. So if defensive play, you know, is your sort of thing, probably not going to find it here in Nighthaunt. Number 2 that I've got is a sort of a counter to the first point. So we started off that they've got a fantastic model range, excuse me, and lore to boot. Of course, that extends the counterpoint to that is they are beautiful, but it is a fragile range. There's a lot of models where they are like Lady Orlinda, for example. She's very wobbly on her base. There are ways to counter that when you're building your army. Just make sure you stick some scenery on there, like a tree or a bit of the mausoleum. You know, just have her leaning on something so she doesn't like just wobble herself to death again. But some of them are very fragile. A lot of the parts can get caught. A lot of the wispy sort of tail ends, like the ethereal parts of the capes, they can all snap quite easily. So that is something to think about if you travel a lot, going backwards and forwards to your games, your local gaming club. You know, then this is an army where you're going to have to reinvest in your storage and make sure that, you know, that's something that you can account for. This isn't the sort of army that you'd want to pick up, just chuck into sort of any old like toolbox case and just have them rattling around, because they will break very easily. And number 3, and the last reason that I've got why you might not want to play Nighthaunt, is there are no real war machines and there's no monsters really in this army. There is a Forge World option. It's not in the battle tome, so we are just waiting basically for it to either fade away or, you know, just disappear overnight. But there's no real monsters. There's one that you can ally in. It's not very good at all though. And there's no big war machines. You've got the Black Coach, but again, that's just treated like another unit. So if big scary monsters like giants, that kind of thing, is more your sort of thing, there's none of that inbuilt into the book, and there's no sort of big artillery or anything. Or I wouldn't say shooting isn't a thing in this book either. The shooting for Nighthaunt isn't very good. They are a combat-based army. It is possible to build a shooting Nighthaunt. We very recently got the what we call the crossbows, which are the Craven Throne Guard. Apologies, and they are Nighthaunts with crossbows, and they look absolutely amazing. Currently their rules are a bit subpar, but if you wanted to, you can make an entire unit with, you know, crossbow troops, and your Black Coach can be armed with shooting weapons. But war machines, monsters and shooting isn't really anything in the Nighthaunt range. Like I said, it is possible for 2 of those, but it's not a strength. It's not something you can really play into or around. So if that's something that you'd be looking for, you'd probably be wanting to look at another faction. So those were my reasons why you might want to play or not want to get into Nighthaunt for 3rd edition in the current book as it stands. If I've missed anything, or there are different reasons that you would recommend someone to play Nighthaunt, or a reason that someone should consider before they pick Nighthaunt as their army in case they want to do something else, then please let me know in the comments down below. As always, take it easy, happy wargaming.